apparently there is some more news coming out in Clipperland about the ongoings of why Chris Paul was eventually sent home. And I'm going to be honest with you, it doesn't get any better whatsoever. Shout out to Daniel Lee over at YouTube, amazing content creator. He puts up some really good content. He highlighted for us a few segments in a game in which Chris Paul was, a bit critical of the effort that was given from Kawhi Leonard defensively. And there's also other reports claiming that this was a part of the reason why Chris Paul was departed from the organization, because they got tired of his lawyering in the locker room. So shout out to Daniel Lee. Actually, a really, really good content creator. But let's see what he got to say.
Against the Cavaliers, Chris Paul was not happy with Kawhi's lack of urgency on defense. As reported by Shams on Wednesday, Paul was sent home by the Clippers because his leadership style clashed with the team. He had been vocal in holding management, coaches, and players accountable, which the team felt became disruptive. And this game might show what the fuss is all about. In the fourth quarter, the Clippers were down 13 and needed a spark, but with rookie Kobe Sanders matched up on Donovan Mitchell, Mitchell runs a pick and roll with Mobley, and he's able to throw it up to him. Then after a miss, Mitchell has Sanders on him again and is easily able to step into the step back three to push the lead up to 18, leading to a Clippers timeout. Right out of the timeout, Paul decided to take the challenge of guarding Mitchell. Now this of course is weird, considering that Paul is too slow, especially when you have better defenders like Kawhi Leonard or Nicholas Batum on the floor. But it was a chance to try and take things into his own hands, and he does a good job fighting over this ball screen, which forces someone else to then try and make a play. Next possession.
I'm going to be honest with you. If we get breakdown of Chris Paul being the best point of attack defender on this roster, we going to have some real fucking problems, dog. If we get breakdown of Chris Paul giving more effort defensively than anybody else, I'm going to be honest with you, we're going to have some real problems, dog.
He does a good job holding his ground initially, but Paul tries to swipe at Mobley, and he's too slow to recover to Mitchell, who drives and throws it up to Mobley again. Now, despite that defensive mishap, Paul had been a spark on the offensive end, and this one's a classic, faking the dribble handoff to Kawhi, and then driving to the rim to cut the lead to 14. Wow. And here's where the fun begins. With everyone getting back on defense, Garland then tells Nance, the reason is, Garland wants the ball to keep rolling as a stall tactic. Notice how the game clock continues to move, but the shot clock is still at 24 seconds. Now, Chris Paul noticed that, and you can hear him say,
389.
But Kawhi Leonard just lets Garland roll it all the way up to the front court, and by the time he picks it up, the Cavs were able to trim down 16 seconds of game time. It also doesn't help that as Garland drives into the paint, he's able to kick it out to Jalen Tyson for 3 to make it a 17-point game. So from start to finish, the Cavs were able to waste over 30 seconds of game clock
and that was Kawhi's man that he left open.
Also get a bucket to extend that lead. On the next possession, after Zoo makes the free throw, Kawhi starts trotting back again until someone tells him to get up. Now the only reason he's lucky here is that after a dead ball like a free throw, the clock doesn't start until Garland actually touches it. So even though there's still a decent amount of space to let it roll, he just picks it up when he realizes the clock won't move. But then just 30 seconds later, after Kawhi knocks down the 3, every Clipper runs back again, so Garland just lets the ball roll again. Kawhi is slow to get up again, and as the camera pans back to the game view, Chris Paul ran all the way to the backcourt to make sure Garland picked it up, and Kawhi's not even in this shot.
Nah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There's no way that y'all are complaining about this man when he's the only. Chris Paul literally has 1 foot out of the league, and you're telling me he cares more on a per possession basis when he's on the floor more than Kawhi Leonard? He's able to give more effort defensively than Kawhi Leonard. He's able to go out there and try harder than Kawhi Leonard. And this is what y'all were upset about?
Was eventually way behind the play. So once it got to a dead ball, Chris Paul finally goes up to Kawhi and is like, hey man, you got to get up, dude. The Cavs are wasting way too much time. And on the next possession, after Zubac makes his free throw to push it down to 11, Kawhi finally gets up to Garland so that they can't waste any clock. Then just yesterday, Chris Haynes reported that Chris Paul had made a suggestion about switching Kawhi off of Klay Thompson in a game against the Mavericks. On this one, Klay comes off the screen, and Kawhi had a lot of trouble navigating that screen. So Paul asked Kawhi in the huddle if he preferred to switch off of him. And apparently, Jeff Van Gundy did not like that Paul had even made that suggestion. This is a microcosm of what's been going on in LA. The Clippers, despite being a veteran group, have been lacking energy and effort. Kawhi Leonard.
Bro, I ain't gonna lie. This is pitiful to watch. You're telling there's like clips of Chris Paul looking at Kawhi like, bro, what the fuck?
Despite being a veteran group, have been lacking energy.
Look at Chris Paul looking at him like, bro, what the fuck are you doing, dog? And what's even worse, you know what's so funny about like this NBA space? Defenders a lot of times live off of reputation. Like once you get labeled a defender, you're basically going to be viewed as a defender to the end of your time in the league, right? The effort that Kawhi provides, it's been slowly deteriorating over the years. Anyone who's watched him knows this. So when people give like Kawhi this gas of being this two-way player, y'all are not watching him because he does not play defense to the same degree that he used to for him to receive the label of a two-way player. He doesn't. So even in the hypothetical of like, well, when Kawhi's healthy, he's not the same player. He's an amazing scorer, but there's a lot of other amazing scorers who are also just as good, if not better defensively, who are substantially better passing and playmakers. Like Kawhi just isn't that player. This is, in all honesty, part of the reason why the Clippers as an organization is so fascinating, because there isn't anybody on that team that will ever hold Kawhi Leonard responsible if Kawhi Leonard is supposed to be the quote-unquote leader of the team. And so if you're telling me from a leadership standpoint that Chris Paul is willing to give more effort defensively than you are when you're not playing games, you're on a minute restriction, you're getting paid more than everybody else on that team, and everything started with you. They first made all the decisions to build around you, and here we are now where Chris Paul, with a foot out of the league, is showing more responsibility, care, and effort defensively than you are. You should be ashamed of yourself. But again, I'm going to be honest with you. It doesn't really surprise me. The fact of the matter is that these are the shenanigans that continue to happen. And then you have Clipper fans running around, or Kawhi fans who are holding on to 2019 and acting as if like that nigga is ever going to reappear again. Y'all acting as if like 2019 Kawhi is ever going to come back. He's not. He's old. But he's there to get checks, cash it, and move on. And then for Van Gundy to come up and tell Chris Paul, you're not allowed to do that. Why? Are y'all all afraid of Kawhi? Are y'all all got your tails tucked between your legs? Crazy. This is crazy.
And effort. Kawhi Leonard has not been the most engaged with the simple things, but it's not just him either. In that game against Miami before Paul got canned, the Clippers had a lot of trouble grabbing defensive rebounds. On this one, after the Heat take a three, the ball's batted around, and Harden's right there to grab it, but he's too slow to the ball. And then just 2 minutes later, as Fontecchio's taking the three, Harden's just standing there and Bam snatches the ball over him. That then gets kicked out for another three, and this was in part of a 30-2 run by the Miami Heat that ended up blowing this game wide open. So, we don't know what Paul may have said behind the scenes that may have triggered his sudden departure, but what we do know is that the Clippers are not engaged throughout the whole game, which is why they're 6-16 to start the year with no light at the end of the tunnel.
Shout out to Daniel Lee, amazing content creator, really keen on highlighting certain aspects. That video is doing crazy numbers too, 500,000 views. Shout out to Daniel Lee for what he does. If y'all want to continue to support Daniel Lee and the content he produces, he does a really good job at eyeing a lot of things. I saw the D'Lo one. I saw the Bronny mistake on as well. I'm a fan of Daniel Lee, but overall though, pretty disturbing things out in Clipperland from an organization that for whatever reason seems as if like they just don't want to hold certain people accountable, and it's crazy that it's the ones that are getting paid the most money. It's even more damning that I see a lot of people who are trying to like be anti Chris Paul, trying to sit there and claim that Chris Paul doesn't have no angle in this fight to sit there and say anything, when the reality is, if those are the things that he's highlighting, if those are the things that he's asking Chris Paul, like, Kawhi, hey, if you need help, say something. I can go out there, I'll give better effort than that, and then you just pick them up at the half-court line, but communicate at bare minimum, but just don't show no effort at all. And the fact that he's not showing little to no effort, not only is not a surprise to me, because even I've watched Kawhi over the past year or two, and again, he's just not the same defender that he was before. I didn't know it was this bad. I know some of the moments have been really, really bad, but I didn't know it was this bad. But it is amazing to me how off a lot of people are when it comes to the whole Chris Paul situation. But showing these examples, it's even crazier. And how y'all are claiming that someone may be barking at people in the locker room after this abysmal start effectively just makes y'all uncomfortable, and you all don't want to deal with it. It's really, really, really crazy that has come full circle, that we're now getting irrefutable evidence of what Chris Paul is pointing out to, how he's highlighting certain things, and how they just don't want to be held accountable out in LA. They just want to show up, get their paycheck, move on, and if Ballmer want to give them an extension, sure, why not? I'll take the extension. I'll take the extension. And quite frankly, here's the other thing. Because Chris Paul knows that he's out of the league, that he's not going to be, he's done. Like his time in the NBA is done. Because Chris Paul knows that, he's the only one on that team that will say anything. Because everyone else trying to land another check. Everyone else trying to find their way back in the league. Everyone else is just trying to figure out what they can before they end their careers. And that's a lot of people on that roster. A lot of people on that roster. I'm trying to last as long as I can. And CP is fucking it up for me. Chris Paul out there running his mouth, and I'm trying to focus on just trying to milk it as much as I can. And that really and truly is the reality of what it looks like. Pause. Okay.